Hey guys, just recently bought a 2021 Fish Pro. It's still brand new. And I'm a lifetime boater, not just a boat owner. And if you guys are boaters out there, you'll know what I mean. Boat owners have boats, they jump in them and they have a good time and they put them back in their garage and they don't care much about them except for if they run or not. Boaters, like myself, are picky SOBs. They want everything to be there when they need it, want it to be right, know all the rules of the road, have background in navigation, all that fun stuff. You really get into it, so it's part of your life, and boating is part of my life. The very first thing that I missed when taking this thing out, I wasn't on it for the first 20 minutes. I took it as a maiden voyage, went to a shallow lake here close by to the house, and I was just going to do some little fishing. Pulled up to a little area, the water was probably 10 feet deep. I grabbed my small little anchor, tossed it over the side, and then tried to hook it up on this little cleat thing they have here. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's a little rope attachment. And I leaned forward and wrapped it around there. It was okay. Had to move, so I had to lean forward, untie it, bring the little anchor back in, move. Then when I put the anchor back out again, I had to give it more scope, tie it again, wrap it up, and it kind of came loose. Had to give it a little more scope or tighten up the scope, and it was a pain in the ass. And I knew right then I had to have, as a boater, I had to have cleats. Had to have a cleat. There's just no way around it. It's probably the most basic, simple thing that any boat, these are boats, any simple boat can have is a cleat. You've got to have it when you're putting out anchors, especially in a lake. Wasn't a big deal, but I plan on taking this thing down to the Keys, being in the ocean, and you have to, when you're backing down on a shallow coral head that may be 5 feet or 2 feet from the surface sometimes with the when the tide's out. You want to get close to it, but you want to make sure your anchor's hooked in and not dragging. So when you get it out there, you get it hooked in. You want to cleat it down or throw out a little more scope, and you have to do that around a cleat. So my very first project, I'll show you guys how I did it in case there are some other boaters out there, which I'm sure there are. You'll see how I did it. Actually, it was pretty easy. And what I came up with works perfectly. So let me show you what I did. All right, the first thing I did is I went and bought some 4-inch stainless steel cleats. I just got them on Amazon. You can see the 3/16 stainless are the really good quality. They have 4, 5, 6, even 8-inch. For me, the 4-inch was the best, and they were $17 for a set. The first thing I did was to get a plate. This was cut out of a piece of aircraft aluminum plate that I purchased at a surplus store. So that way I could use aluminum, and that's the best aluminum that you can get. Stainless would have been better, but I found this stuff here at a surplus store, and as you know, the aircraft aluminum is really about the best aluminum you can get for being corrosive protected. And you can see how the nuts will go on the back. And there's one laying beside it that's already done. I just wanted to make sure all the holes lined up. Then I went ahead and got some JB Weld for steel. This is the stuff that takes a little longer to dry because the 5-minute stuff doesn't adhere as well. Went ahead and mixed up just a little bit. And what this is for is to be able to hold the nuts on the back of the plate, because you can't get your fingers or you can't get a wrench behind it. So all this is to do is to basically hold the nuts on the plate. So now I went ahead and while the nuts were in place, fairly snug on the plate, I cleaned or sanded the edge of the plate and the back side of the nut the best I could, And you can see I'm just putting a little bit around the edge. All this is doing is holding the nut in place, so when it comes time to put the screw in and tighten it down, the nut's already on the back. It's kind of like a backing nut. So it's not really there for any structural purposes. It just holds the nut until you can get the screw in and tighten down. So it's basically a one-time use, because hopefully you'll never be taking it off again. So you can see, there you go. It's all drying now. And then I went ahead and took it outside, gave it a nice coat, first off a little primer coat of epoxy paint. Epoxy paint is really, really good. It's a lot better than regular paint. It hardens and obviously into an epoxy. So I've already given it a one light coat, let it dry, just a barely, you can see, look at the nuts, there's little blue dots on them. Those are pieces of tape that I shoved inside the holes so that paint would not get on the threads. So, and now I'm giving it the probably the second coat. I ended up giving it about a third, fourth coat. Let it dry in the sun for about 2 days. So it's really good and hard. This epoxy paint takes a long time to cure. You can see there's spacers. I will list all the spacers that I had to get and everything on the end of this video. So top spacers are a little larger in diameter than the bottom ones, and you'll see that that is required. This is the place that you normally put your rope. Take the plate, slide it behind. Now the nuts are in place, being held in place by the JB Weld. Get the top one started, and you can see the spacers, the larger, the fatter of the two spacers are on the top side. Get them started, and just barely get them started so that there's enough play where you can grab the whole assembly and swing it upward like this. Swinging it upward allows you to now put the smaller spacers, or smaller in diameter, on the bottom. Now notice I'm screwing these in. I couldn't find the right size spacers, so these were actually longer. I had to trim them so they were the same length as the ones on top, and also they had a small hole. I had to use a drill bit. I just held it with a pair of pliers really good and snug and took my time drilling a hole so the screw would fit in there, and the hole was just basically barely the right size for the threads, so I had to screw them in, which I didn't mind. I'd rather have them a little more snug. Then you rotate it back down, and once you do that, you can get I screwed around with a screwdriver. Finally I realized just a screw gun poked them perfectly straight so that they lined up with the nuts that were glued in. And then I went ahead and slowly tightened them up, going all the way around, and left them a little bit loose. Did not snug them down yet, so that you made sure the plate was evenly tightened all the way around. You don't want to tighten one up and then have the thing cockeyed. So once you get them all in place, then I started snugging it down. Make sure that it's spaced into the center of the opening, and that bar that it's hooking to actually is a piece of, I believe it has steel inside of it, and then it's just plastic or PVC coated. And there you go. Looks good. Let's see if a rope works. Beautiful. It's exactly what I needed. What a pain it was to always use the anchor when I was in shallow water, wanting to tie the anchor off, trying to run it through here, or tie it somewhere. This is going to be so much nicer. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, excellent. They should offer these as a retrofit kit.